a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll? Driving on the highway, going to a show. Stopping on the byway, playing rock and roll. Getting round, getting stoned, getting beat up, getting boned, getting high, getting shook. I'll show you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. If you feel it's easy to do one night stands, try playing a rock and roll band. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the 2008 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. We're here from Milwaukee for race number 4 of 36. It's the Miller High Life 400. Bit of action, flat track action here at the mile from race number 4 as we take you to the racetrack for your starting lineup in tonight's race. Last week we saw in week number 3, Kurt Busch taking home the win at Darlington in a thriller of a finish, led only 2 laps that night, and he takes home his first win of the season. This week, Brad Keselowski, the 2-car, going to start on the pole here tonight, with DJ Kennington, winner of this race last year, and the defending Cup champion, starting in second place. Third place will be Jimmy Johnson in the 48, and JJ Yaley in the 10 starts in 4th. The Marcos Ambrose will be in 5th, a nice qualifying from the 13, and Marcos Ambrose starts a side-by-side with Scott Riggs in 6th place in the 57, with both of the PPC cars once again in the top 10. Greg Biffle starts in P7, in the 16, with Tony Stewart to his outside in 8th. 9th place goes to Robbie Gordon, and Jeff Gordon rounds out the top 10. Juan Pablo Montoya will be in the 11th position in the 84. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starts in 12th. Matt Kenseth, 13th place in the 17, and 14th goes to Casey Kane. 15th will be Casey Mears, and 16th is Kevin Harvick, as Boris said. 17th place in the 60 car this week, and Clint Boyer will be in the 18th spot. 19th, that'll be Elliott Sadler and Kurt Busch, last week's winner, in 20th. 21st goes to John Andretti, and Jeremy Mayfield will start in the 22nd spot. It's Ryan Newman in the 23rd position. 24th will be Jason Leffler. 25th place is Carl Edwards in the 19, side-by-side with his teammate Bobby Labonte in 26th. Todd Cleaver will be P27. It's Shane Meal in 28th. 29th place, Scott Wimmer in the 5, and 30th is Ricky Hendrick. Kyle Busch will start 31st, and Jamie McMurray in the 32nd position. Casey Atwood will be P33, and Reed Sorensen in 34th. John Wood, P35, and Scott Steckley in the 36th position. Eric Norris starts this race in P37. 38th goes to the rookie Andrew Ranger. 39th will be David Rudiman, and Ted Musgrave in the 78 for Furniture Row. He's in 40th. And rounding out the field, the back row, Todd Bodine in the 77 for Jasper, and Tim Fadewa in the 08 machine here this week. 120 lapper here for Milwaukee, as we take you to the racetrack for the most famous words in motorsports, the command, here from the Miller High Life 400.
start your engines.
Field roast to life as we get set to roll. Brad Keselowski and DJ Kennington on the front row. Track position always important at Milwaukee. One of the big things that drivers always talk about when coming to this racetrack here in the Cup Series is it's deceptively difficult to get in and out of the corners at this racetrack. Of course, mile-long racetrack with those long straightaways and the tight radius turns here. It's real challenging to get down into the corners at this place, drive it down to the bottom, and also you got to be real patient on corner exit to try and not overdrive out into that outside wall. We see it catch a lot of guys out over the course of the races here in this place. Busch Series, or excuse me, AT&T Series on Saturday saw Brad Coleman take a third consecutive win in the Grand National Series this week, off to a flyer of a start down in AT&T. Brad Keselowski, second full year in the Cup Series. Couple of rookies from last season, two of the most touted prospects in the series on the front row here this week at Milwaukee. They'll start first and second here tonight. Pace car peels off on the left, 120 lapper from Milwaukee, and we are underway from the Miller High Life 400. Keselowski off to a clean start from the lead. Kennington gets down to the bottom from the outside pole as he finds the low line. Jimmy Johnson, third place starter, still P3. As JJ Yaley is the first to get stuck on that tight outside line as he starts to fall out of the top 5 to Greg Biffle in the 16. Marcos Ambrose having a strong run here in tonight's race. He's in the 4th position in the 13 machine. Early top 5 run for that Valvoline Chevrolet as everybody gets sorted out. You're going to see that outside. It's not impossible to hang tight in a battle on that top line. As a matter of fact, the outside really does hold some advantages when you're in a side-by-side battle. You can pinch the guy in the bottom down, force him to drive real conservative on that inside line, especially on corner entry. You have to brake early. And it allows you to pinch down on exit as well. It doesn't necessarily mean you've lost the battle if you end up on the outside. Characteristic of this racetrack, despite that higher grip strip of differing color of that material on the inside line, of course, but still the advantageous line to be in is that bottom side, and you see Biffle and also Robbie Gordon in the 31 sliding past that 10 of JJ Yaley on the low side here in the first 5 laps of this race, as a 10 still trying to find a way down to the bottom, looking like he will in front of Kenseth, the 2 Red Bull cars, the 84 and the 17. Behind that 10 of JJ Yaley. 3 cars under a blanket up front. It's Keselowski, Kennington, and Johnson. A Pontiac and 2 Chevrolets at the front of this field as Keselowski, multi-time winner in the Cup Series so far, winner at Richmond and Martinsville, has a handle on these flat tracks and has continued to be very competitive here with a lack of banking throughout his Cup career. Really seems to specialize at this racetrack type, and he sits in the early lead here from the pole and the first 5 laps in a row with his fellow 2007 and 2006 rookie Kennington. 2007 Cup champion up his rear bumper. Still single digits in the lap count. Yaley still falling privy to the outside line as it's now Tony Stewart trying to find a way past that 10. Wendy's Ford with a little bit of a struggle here in the first couple of laps from his top 5 starting position, but once again does find an opening onto the bottom lane. As Matt Kenseth in the 17 has now slid past him into 7th as well. Still a top 10 spot for the 10. Same cannot be said for his teammate Riggs, so the 57 has found his way back to the bottom. Montoya in the 84 up in front of that 57 as he's side by side with Mears and Casey Kane for the 12th and 13th positions at the moment. Track position always a premium at this racetrack. We've seen it time and time again. Milwaukee, not an easy track to make an overtake at, of course. You want to either wait for a mistake or find a big run on corner exit and dive it down to that inside line. It's always been a struggle to make passes at this facility. And today, early looking no different, though Kennington playing a little bit patient here with the two of Keselowski in the first handful of laps. Almost got in the back bumper of him there in turn 3, maybe showing a little bit of desire to try and steal that lead. Has yet to show the nose on corner entry and try and make a move on that 2 car for the first position. And Johnson has been piling pressure on that MB&A Chevrolet up front in the first 10 laps of this race as well. All of the top 3 still bumper to bumper. And Marcos Ambrose and the 16 of Greg Biffle are both starting to reel this top 3 in just a little bit, maybe make it a 5-horse race for these top spots. Johnson again showing the nose just a little bit on Kennington, but the 81 does a good job covering him off on corner entry. Still no move from any of the members of the top 3. And it's just sort of a chess match at this racetrack. You see these drivers always taking so much time, methodical in making their move. It's so hard to be side by side here, of course. You're going so fast on corner entry and have to woe it up so much more than you think. It's nearly a 60-mile-an-hour speed difference from the mid-corner compared to corner entry, getting up to about 155 miles an hour, down to 100 in the mid-corner. But tires don't matter as much at this racetrack as you might think with how much brake use and speed differential there is here, of course. We talk about that a lot when we visit this facility. That it usually ends up being a matter of being such a smooth surface here. It's not a lot of tire wear here. And it is that track position that's most important. You saw Keselowski blocked the bottom. Kennington tried to go to the outside there on Keselowski, getting a little aggressive for the race lead, but seems to have backfired just a little bit. And Jimmy Johnson in the 48 is going to slide past Kennington for the first position, or excuse me, the second position, first dibs. Trying to get P1 here in Milwaukee, and Johnson, the Lowe's 48, into second place. You saw there just how much time being side-by-side cost you, even just a singular lap those two spent side-by-side. Just pulled the 48 and the 81 off of the back bumper of the two of Keselowski, giving Brad just a little bit of a chance to breathe here. Has had Kennington and Johnson up his rear end since the drop of the green flag in this race. Biffle, Ambrose, Robbie Gordon, Matt Kenseth trailing behind the leaders. Yaley has continued to bleed spots in the early run of this race, looking like he might fall out of the top 10 to Casey Mears in the 99. He's having himself another solid race to open up this 2008 campaign. We talked a lot about Mears and the fact that he was given this chance by Roush to drive the 99 car this year, the X17 entry from the 2007 season. That number leaving Roush with Robbie Reiser going over to Red Bull Racing, and now Mears in that entry. Renumbered back to the 99, an ex-Roush entry, and now Mears taking that car full-time. Single-year contract as reported for Mears in that 99, but having himself a very solid start to this 2008 season. And has really proven why Jack Roush was so keen on taking a chance on this young man. Said, we like what we saw out of him in that 55 car last year and figured that he absolutely deserves another chance in a good, solid race car. We wanted to build a good team around him, give him a shot to prove himself after a solid rookie season in that 55 car, and so far has proven Jack Roush right over the course of this season. He's had some very, very solid runs to open up this 2008 campaign, and once again finds himself in the top 10 early in the running. Johnson in the 48 has found his way up to the back bumper of Keselowski in the 2. But still no move for the race lead. $18 laps through this race so far as Jimmy Johnson sits in that second position. Both of the early top 2 in the standings after just 3 races in this season. Of course, not very telling over how this season's going to go, but both of them in the top 5 right now. Johnson the second in points driver at the moment, and Greg Biffle in the 16. who has opened up this year with the early points lead, sits in that 4th position, just behind 81 of Kennington. Johnson got aggressive there with Keselowski showing the nose, going towards turn 1, but he turned it a little too sharp there on corner exit, trying to show the nose as a sign of aggression in the first place. Might have cost him just a little bit of time on corner exit. But once again, Keselowski led every lap of this race so far and has still not yielded this first position to the 48 or the 81, who are still up his back bumper and have yet to find a way to get side by side with Keselowski, let alone take away that lead. Top 3 still under a blanket. Kennington is going to be the next to try and make a shot here as he jumps underneath of Jimmy Johnson for the 2nd position. Seen this spot trade hands once already between these two, but Kennington down on the low side. Half a car length ahead, headed towards turn number 1. Johnson trying to hang tight around the outside. Pair of Chevrolets. Keselowski scampering away, loving this in his mirror once again as these two continue to battle for the 2nd position. Johnson not giving up just yet, pulls Greg Biffle into the mix here. Down the front stretch, still side by side, Kennington pulling ahead on the run down to turn 1. But still, Kennington not able to complete that move. And matter of fact, Johnson starting to run away from him down towards turn 3, and he clears him. And Johnson showing how that top side can work, and no move or change in the top 5 as Johnson holds off Kennington for the runner-up spot. And now going to have to regroup as Keselowski gained a lot of time, seeing how much faster the 48 and the 81 have been. Keselowski arguably the slowest car in the top 5. That 48's going to have to run him back down once again. Johnson getting a real defensive there going into turn 1. Trying to cover off that move from Kennington, starting to get a little too focused on the battle for P2 rather than catching up to that 2 of Keselowski, who's still led every lap of this race so far. And again, Johnson covering the bottom. You saw Biffle also covering the inside against Ambrose in the 13 going into turn 1. "25 laps completed here from Milwaukee." And you're starting to see a little bit just that struggle up front to try and make a pass at this racetrack. We talk about it so much, how important track position is here. And Milwaukee showing its colors here tonight as still not a single change for the lead, just one swap for 2nd. Biffle did get past Ambrose for the 4th position about 10-15 laps ago. That's about it in terms of changes in the top 5 in this race. But Johnson and Kennington, again, the 2 faster cars, up to the back bumper of Keselowski. Just going to take a well-timed run down one of these straightaways for Johnson to maybe try and show the nose on this 2 car here. Or maybe Kennington can try a second time at retaking the second position from Johnson, but the 48 up the back bumper of Keselowski. Still no move into turn one. And now Biffle, Ambrose, and maybe more are starting to join this train at the front of the field. Keselowski's done just such a good job of having the runs on corner exit. You see how much he backs up his entry and focuses on getting off of the corners well. That takes away the chance for the 48 to try and jump underneath of him for the lead. And really just allows that two to continue to lead these laps. Johnson has been so much better in the middle of the corner and on corner entry than this two over the course of this run. But again, Keselowski, you have to get the run down into the corner in order to have a shot to take away that race lead. And Keselowski is doing such a good job of getting off of the turns real clean, real fast. You see Kennington starting to drop off of Johnson as he's been defending against Biffle for this third position, and the 16 starting to get aggressive here, trying to go around the outside of Kennington. But DJ, a great exit there out of turn two. Again, highlighting how important corner exit is at this racetrack. Holds the 16 car off. Ambrose now side by side with Robbie Gordon for the fifth position. As the 31 taking a shot at a top five spot here. Biffle, another move for third place. Gets to the inside of Kennington this time, but DJ, another great run out of turn two. We'll see if Biffle can stay down underneath him. Not quite. And the 81 holds on to third once more. Robbie Gordon passed Ambrose, however, for the fifth position. And still Keselowski in the race lead of this race. Four cars in a train here from Biffle back to the 17 of Kenseth. He's putting together a good run here. See Jeff Gordon in 8th, Stewart in 9th. Casey Mears still holding on to a top 10 spot. Yaley and Riggs still in the top 15. Harvick and Kane also members of the top 15, along with the 84 of Juan Pablo Montoya. Lap traffic might slowly become a factor over the course of this race. The 78 car of Ted Musgrave is currently in the last position on the racetrack right now, and just about a full straightaway ahead of the race leaders Keselowski and Johnson at the moment. But again, this 48 just trying to find a way past Keselowski. Has not been able to do it. And Kennington, now that he has ended his battle with Biffle for the third position, has also started to close up on this top two. And you gotta imagine just how infuriating it must be to be Jimmy Johnson or Kennington stuck behind this two car, just unable to make anything happen up front at the moment. And again, that was another opportunity for Johnson to maybe try and jump underneath that too, but still just being so patient. And after 40 laps, you gotta imagine that it's starting to get infuriating, as I just said. And I'm surprised that Johnson hasn't tried to make a move yet. That's the important factor, is that Johnson and Kennington have not even tried to get the lead from Keselowski yet. They've been up his back bumper, but haven't even shown the nose by a full lane yet on that two car. They've gotten a little bit antsy. Still just no move for that race lead just yet. We've seen spots swap in the top five. Johnson another run, and this time he's going to take it. Side by side for the race lead between the two of Keselowski and the 48 of Jimmy Johnson. And it'll be the first lap led on the day, not by the 48 car. Kennington's going to take the golden opportunity as he gets side by side with Keselowski as well. Johnson clear of the 2 car in turn 1. Kennington trying to follow through. Clear of Keselowski into 3. 2 car not giving up just yet on entry, but Kennington should have this move completed, and he does get past the 2 of Keselowski. Biffle side by side. Keselowski might find a way to slot into 3rd here. Biffle trying to drive it down there into turn 1, but just couldn't quite get there. But Kennington and Johnson, arguably the 2 fastest cars in this top 5, are past the 2 and into the lead and 2nd place. Took almost a third of this race, but Keselowski finally out of the lead, and you see the tumbling starts to begin as Keselowski falling side by side with the 16. Biffle into 3rd. Robbie Gordon trying to take 4th. And again, you see this pace disparity, especially on the long run. I feel like Keselowski especially hasn't had the speed on this longer run, and you see just how quickly they all got past him. And as a matter of fact, hand out the window, Keselowski's going to take this opportunity to come down pit road early. You see just how much of a struggle it was for that 2 car on the long run. And Keselowski decides, I've dropped out of the lead. I'm going to come down pit road for fresh tires, looking like really no other takers outside of those first 4 or 5. And the pole sitter, Brad Keselowski, down pit road on lap number 41, taking 42 that time by. Johnson and Kennington, the top 2. Bring it down the next time by. It'll be Robbie Gordon in the 31 staying out to lead a lap. First cycle of pit stops right at the 1/3 mark of this race. Incident-free event here in Milwaukee so far as the rest of the field comes down pit road. Stewart really cutting it close there with the pit wall. Entered the pits side by side. Don't usually see a lot of that at this racetrack. It is so hard to get into the pits here in Milwaukee, but Keselowski about a second, maybe a second and a quarter of tire fall off. Trying to undercut the top 2. He might get Kennington here. And he will just about get that move done. But Biffle, a fantastic pit stop in the 16, moves into the 2nd position. And the caution flag is out. Damage on J.J. Yaley. Or excuse me, not J.J. Yaley. What am I talking about? Jason Leffler in the 00. Oh, and it was the 5 of Wimmer. And talking about getting onto pit road at this racetrack, and Wimmer in the 5 car grabs the pit wall, trying to get in side by side with Shane Meal. And misjudged it, and the 00 got the pit wall as well. And Jeff Gordon also appears to have been involved in an incident. Though this one seems to have been coming off of pit road. This might have been the cause of the caution. Let's have a look here. Yeah, contact with Mears in turn 3, 99. We were talking about having such a good run. Appears to have just misjudged it with the 24, and contact in turn 3, and both of them into the wall. Hard hit for Jeff Gordon, and he'll be out of this race. So things appear to have been flipped around just a little bit. And we'll see exactly where everyone stands. Jimmy Johnson should be in the race lead, and pretty much everybody should remain on the lead lap after that incident. But a weird and wacky situation here from Milwaukee. But looking like no further pit stops from the race leaders after taking the first caution of today's race. Jimmy Johnson, the 48 car, in the race lead. Lap number 46 here from the Miller High Life 400, and we will take it to intermission. It's NASCAR and ESPN, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here at Milwaukee as we get set to go green. Jimmy Johnson, 48 car race leader here, coming to lap number 50 on the restart. Tire issues for the 02 of Ricky Hendrick, who's going to be forced to pit from the 26th position on this restart. Looking at the rest of your top 5 is Greg Biffle. With that great pit stop is going to be in the 2nd position. 3rd place, Keselowski. 4th is going to be DJ Kennington, and Casey Kane, a great pit stop, rounds out the top 5. Pace car in, green flag in the air. And Biffle with a great restart. Took a look for the race lead going off into turn number 1. And actually the caution flag, I believe, just came back out for the 02. Yes, it did. So, odd situation there. Figured the racetrack might stay green with Ricky Hendrick coming in to replace that tire. We would have figured it would. But the restart almost immediately gets called off, and Johnson will retain the race lead. Thought Biffle might have had a chance to take that 1st place there going into turn 1, but caution comes back out. Take you to a quick intermission here from Milwaukee as the 48 still in the race lead. Back from intermission here at Milwaukee as we get set to go green. Jimmy Johnson still in the lead. Biffle 2nd, Keselowski 3rd, Kennington 4th, and Kane in the 5th position in that 12 as we get set to go this time by lap number 55 after the odd 2nd caution there. Ricky Hendrick with that tire down stayed on the lead lap. 45 also retired from the race with engine trouble under that 2nd caution. Pace car going to peel in here. Number 55 on the restart. Green flag in the air. Not quite the energetic restart from Greg Biffle this time. Probably wishing he could have that one back. Because he probably would have gotten underneath that 48 on the last restart, but this time Jimmy Johnson holds the lead. Kennington going to get underneath Keselowski for 3rd. And just a fantastic mid-corner by that 2 car that time, though, and Kennington finds himself remaining stuck. See the damage on the back of Robbie Gordon there was ran into by Jason Leffler under that last yellow flag. And Riggs way out of line there in turn 2. It's Kurt Busch. Will slide past him. Gordon looking no worse for wear despite the damage to the back of his 31 car, as he's going to try and take this spot from the 57. And will do just that. So he moves past and up a spot. Keselowski getting defensive here with Kennington. 81 going to try to go around the outside of the 2 here for the 3rd spot. We've seen just how much faster this 81 has been than the 2. And does he clear him into turn number 3? No. Keselowski with a huge dive bomb there in turn 3. Can he carry the exit speed is the question. Seeming like he is going to have the advantage down the front stretch. Harvick finds a way underneath of Kane. Kennington really trying to push the issue and get past this 2 of Keselowski. Knows he's got a car to be a contender for this win. If he does, and he cleared him, around the outside goes Kennington for 3rd. So the defensive move on Keselowski's part doesn't pay off. And Kennington up a place. A lot of battles here. Robbie Gordon again, despite the big damage on the back of his 12. Or excuse me, on the back of his 31, trying to take away another position here. Got past Edwards. Now trying to fight with Kane. Really forcing him up the racetrack here. We're seeing these guys get their elbows out just a little bit more on this run. Guys, no positions are scarce, and Robbie Gordon trying to slip past. And he does. Carl Edwards next. Edwards past the 12 now as the 57 of Riggs next in line. You're seeing just how much that outside can really hurt you, especially if you're the slower car. Kevin Harvick in the 20. Looking to take over the 4th position here from Keselowski. Kurt Busch, who has come alive late once again. Also maybe looking for a spot here as well. Halfway here from Milwaukee in the Miller High Life 400, and Jimmy Johnson already a winner this year. It's looking like he might have the stuff to just run away with it here, as Biffle struggling to stick with him. And it is a sizable lead now for that 48. Just over 60 laps completed here from Milwaukee. Johnson starting to scamper away just a little bit. We'll take it to NASCAR Crank It Up here on NASCAR on ESPN. Let you listen to some engines and nothing more as Johnson continues to lead here from the Miller High Life 400. Lap number 71 from Milwaukee, and there you just saw the battle between Greg Biffle and the 81 of DJ Kennington. 50 laps to go, and the 81 continues his outside lane dominance charge through this top 5, and he moves into the runner-up position in his MV&A Chevrolet. Jimmy Johnson still in the race lead, coming up on lap car Jason Leffler in the 00 with the damage to the front of his Dr. Pepper machine. Leffler, arguably a car that should be retired due to minimum speed, so this 00 will be pulled off the racetrack. But it is a comfortable lead for Johnson, over 2 seconds now. We saw the dominance from the 81 of Kennington at this very racetrack last season, where he took home a comfortable win. I believe that was an over 5-second gap that Kennington had put on the rest of the field to win that race in 2007. His first win en route to that 2007 Cup title. And has once again moved into a solid position here in Milwaukee. Second place, but Johnson in control, looking to already make it his second win. And tire down for the 23, that's Scott Steckley. And this is going to result in another caution. And Johnson's lead is going to go to the wayside. Steckley with a tire down, forced to bring it into the pits. And we will be under caution for the third time in tonight's race. So Kennington, after that charge up to second, is going to be placed right on the back bumper of Jimmy Johnson here. You would expect another pit stop. Could potentially be tight on fuel. We see a maximum of about 75 laps on the fuel window. So we'll see how this next yellow flag and subsequent green flag run plays out for these drivers, provided we don't get another yellow flag. We've had multiple of them over the course of this race, but Kennington and Johnson, the top two, down pit road on lap number 75. Remember, the 5 car going to be the lucky dog on this restart, but 2 race leaders into their pit boxes for foreign fuel. Steckley should also be waved around in front of the leaders here for tires and fuel. On for the leaders. And Kennington is going to be forced to hold by Johnson, and that is a disastrous pit stop for Kennington, having to wait for the 48, and he falls all the way behind Robbie Gordon. Hard to say. Would like to look back at the race off of pit road if Johnson might have lost the lead out of the pits here to Biffle, and he did. So the 16, masterful pit stop. And Biffle is going to have the race lead here on the restart. Johnson did stay in front of the 20 of Harvick. But Biffle into the race lead with the masterful pit stop, and the 16 into first place. Lap number 77 at the moment here for the race leaders. We'll take it to intermission. It's NASCAR on ESPN here from Milwaukee, the Miller High Life 400, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here at Milwaukee as we get set to go green. Greg Biffle steals the lead on pit road, and the 16 car will restart in the first position. Jimmy Johnson, the 48, will be in second. Third place belonging to Kevin Harvick in the 20. Kurt Busch will sit in the fourth spot, and Carl Edwards in the McDonald Chevrolet in that fifth position as we get set to go. Robbie Gordon in sixth, and then DJ Kennington with that rough pit stop having to wait for the 48 so he could leave pit road safely. He sits in seventh. Pace car going to peel in. Biffle leading the field into the restart box. Green flag in the air. Great start for Johnson. Even better start for Harvick, who is going to jump underneath of the 48 going into turn number one here on the restart. Side by side between the two Chevrolets. Biffle loving this in his mirror. Harvick trying to hang tight on the bottom. Can he do it? Not quite. Johnson holds second despite the effort from Harvick. Now side by side for third, with Kurt Busch in the 0-1 trying to go around that up top line here in turns 3 and 4. Busch coming alive late once again. But Harvick holds him off. Getting aggressive on the restart. You see Kennington trying to pass Robbie Gordon for the 6th position here. Looking to move forward after that rough pit stop. Pulls up behind his teammate Edwards, who is actually going to cover him off, though now going to yield the inside lane. Almost contact between Keselowski and Kane, the teammates. Robbie Gordon slips underneath of Edwards. Big damage, no problem for the 31. Dent in the back bumper doesn't matter to him. And he moves past Edwards into the 6th position. Johnson up the back bumper of Biffle. .16 trying to hold this lead after that masterful pit stop to take away the top spot. Biffle v. Johnson, Harvick in third, fourth belonging to Busch. Kennington trying to frantically run down the rest of the top 5 to regain any chance he might have had at winning this race. Biffle trying to steal one under the nose of Jimmy Johnson, but the 48 not letting him get away with it just yet. And he's got a great run out of turn 2. Maybe got a little sideways. You saw that little wiggle coming out of turn 2. And Biffle manages to cover him off. Harvick and Busch still without the speed to try and run this top 2 down. Biffle, Johnson, and Kennington have probably been the 3 fastest cars in today's race. Kennington has found his way up to the back bumper of Kurt Busch. See if he makes a move here. Thought about it, but going to be a little patient, a little more than I would expect. But as we've talked about how hard it is to make a pass here, and you don't want to commit to an overtake and then end up sliding sideways. But Johnson is underneath of the 16 of Biffle to try and retake the race lead. And out of turn 2, Biffle trying to hang tight around the top. Johnson almost clear. Does he get him in 3? He does. Biffle maybe thought about a crossover there, but didn't quite have the run out to hang with him, and Johnson back into the race lead. Kurt Busch finds his way underneath of Harvick for the third spot. Side by side for P3. Kennington up behind his teammate. And this time in turn one, Kurt Busch trying to clear that 20. And he does. Kennington still side by side with his teammate. Biffle not giving up on the lead just yet. Still hanging tough with the 48. Might have went the right way on the adjustments on the last pit stop. Still unable to try and fight and get side by side with this 48 for the lead. Kennington passed Harvick into fourth at the back of your screen there. .30 laps to go at Milwaukee this next time by. Fuel still a question in the minds of the crew chiefs on the pit boxes. And we will see if the leaders can make it to the end of this race on fuel. Kennington got underneath of Kurt Busch. Side by side for the third position. Kennington running out of time, but he is, at least he should, complete this pass. Harvick, his teammate, following through underneath of the 01. But Busch giving Kennington a little bit of trouble, but the 81 is through, so he moves to third. Might still need one more caution if he wants to get back into this race for the win. But he is into P3 and has clean air in front of him, but Johnson is starting to run away from Biffle for the lead. Laps continuing to wind away. Johnson out front, trying to scamper away from this 16 and claim victory for the second time already this year. Had the win at Rockingham, race number 2 of the season. Trying to make it 2 wins already. And you see that gap continuing to grow for this 48 as the laps disappear. Running better laps in both the 16 and the 81. Again, this race isn't over just yet. We're still thinking about that final pit stop, and if we will have one, it will be a long run if these guys get all the way to the end, but it is a possibility that we see these guys pit one final time and maybe a couple drivers manage to find a way to make it to the end on fuel. Closing in on the end of this race. Kennington trying to run this gap back down. The 16 hasn't yet fallen out of the mirror of Johnson, but he's got to string some fantastic laps together if he wants to remain anywhere near this win. Be 20 to go next time for Jimmie Johnson in the 48. Biffle maybe putting some good laps together the last couple of times. He was a 10th quicker than the 48 on the last circuit of the racetrack, was just about even, about 100th better than Johnson on the last time through. Trying to close that gap. He's got 20 laps left. But he is doing absolutely everything he can to close in. Johnson a couple hundredths better that time. But again, Biffle, you see he's really driving it into the corners a lot harder than Johnson is at the moment. Might pay him dividends. But he's got to close this gap. And Johnson, again, a 10th better than Biffle that time. I think that 48 is just so much better in 3 and 4 than Biffle is. Issues for Mayfield, a tire down on the backstretch here, and he is not going to make it back to pit road, and we are going to see a 4th caution here tonight. So this run is going to end in a yellow flag. We're not going to see that potential fuel mileage. But a caution comes out, and potentially one more pit stop under this yellow flag. Another tire failure here at Milwaukee. 4th caution of the night. And that changes things here in this Miller High Life 400. And we'll see if the field elects to come down pit road here. 15 to go at the line. And they will not. So the field remains on the racetrack here in Milwaukee. 15 to go is the count. We see one pitter, Scott Riggs, in the 57 comes down pit road. So definitely looking like some guys aren't going to make it on fuel. They're going to gamble by staying out here. Mears, bit of damage on the front of his race car, although that was from the early incident in this race, but a couple of others who were competitive. You saw Riggs bring it down pit road. And this is where things potentially get interesting. Inside the final 15 laps, Jimmie Johnson, the 48, your race leader. We'll take it to intermission. NASCAR and ESPN here for the Miller High Life 400. Back from intermission here at Milwaukee. As we get set to go green, fuel mileage potentially still lingering in the minds of these crew chiefs. They're going to try and stretch it out. But Johnson in the 48 will restart in the lead on lap 109 of 120. Biffle in the second position, Kennington in third, Harvick fourth, Busch in fifth. Pace disparity was closer than we might have thought. We'll see what the 16 and potentially the 81 have on older tires. As we come back to the restart, pace car in 109 for Johnson. It is going to be 12 laps to go. The green flag is in the air, and we are back underway. Top three all get away well. Great exit out of turn 2 from Johnson. Opens up the gap to Biffle big time. Kennington, if he wants a shot to steal this from Johnson, he's going to have to get past the 16, and Biffle's going to have to put some corners together if he wants to win it. $11 to go. Great run down the front stretch by the 16. Closes up just that little bit, but Johnson is getting out of these corners so well. 78 car of Ted Musgrave hit pit road. Think he had damage, but here comes Kennington for second place. Side by side for P2 with 10 laps to go now at the line. Kennington trying to get past. And he just about is going to pull it off here in turns 1 and 2. Kennington to second. Harvick trying to follow his teammate to third. Does the 81 have anything for Johnson with 10 laps to go? Johnson got out of turn number 4 there so well. Absolutely ran away from Kennington that time. Does Kennington have anything left? He's got 9 laps to run that 48 down, but Johnson might be better than him. We'll see. Biffle trying to cover Harvick. Can't quite do it. Harvick runs him up the track. Side by side for third place. Biffle falling out of it. Harvick into P3. He's clear of the 16 out of turn 2. But Johnson's running away. Does he have enough fuel to make it is the question. Chad Knaus, one of the best crew chiefs in the game. You have to imagine he thought long and hard about it. Johnson's just got to hit 7 more clean laps. .48 just running away with it. Kennington still trying to find a way. Coming to 5 to go this time. Johnson, he's going to need a mistake out of this 48 now. Johnson's going to have to run it in the wall if Kennington wants a shot to get up here. Johnson's just got to cruise. 5 to go for the 48. Down into 3 and 4. Johnson continuing to open up this gap to Kennington. 4 laps left. And Robbie Gordon is into pit road in the 31. We very well might see that fuel mileage. Do the top 2 have enough fuel? through 3 and 4. Do Johnson and Kennington stay on the track? They do. It'll be 3 to go for the top 2. No pitters in the top 10. Newman and Shane Meal hit pit road. This is the very last chance that anyone might have of beating this 48 here today. Through 3 and 4. Coming to 2 laps to go. Johnson's still on the track. So is Kennington. Harvick hits pit road. And that was almost all of the top 10. Johnson side by side with Shane Meal, who leaves pit road side by side with him. Johnson remains on the track. So does DJ Kennington. White flag is in the air. Does Johnson have enough fuel for one more lap? Kennington getting pulled up thanks to Shane Meal side by side with the 48. Down the backstretch for the final time. Johnson into 3 and 4. He is going to have enough fuel to make it here out of turn 4. Jimmy Johnson holds on. Second win of the season. 48 visits victory lane here in Milwaukee. Kennington second. Third place Biffle. Fourth is the 01 of Kurt Busch. And Elliott Sadler manages to make it on fuel. Dale Jr. sixth. Ambrose in 7th. 8th Andretti. 9th Labonte. And 10th place did not belong to Riggs. It was a 12 of Kane, who was on pit road, I believe, at the end of that race. What a wacky finish. But the top 2 make it. And Johnson is your winner here tonight. '48 car dominated the later portion of this race. Nobody had the stuff to beat him. And for the second time in 2008, Johnson already has another win to his name. And he takes the checkered flag here in the Miller High Life 400. That'll do it for coverage here from Milwaukee as Jimmy Johnson, your winner here in the Miller High Life 400. It's been NASCAR and ESPN. I've been your host, Caden Reif. It's been a pleasure to have you along as always, and we will see you next time. Race number 5. It'll come to you from Loudon for the Lennox Industrial Tools 300. Well, we'll catch you then. And as always, have yourself a good one.